Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Did you oversleep?
Yeah, I did. I did oversleep by accident. I'm sorry about that. Thank you for calling me.
That's okay.
Um, so today we're gonna read the Games of Science. Is this a longer one? This is like a long chapter, isn't it? Oh, it's okay. Let's just look at something. Oh yeah, this is a long one. Oh, this is a really long one. It's 76. It's gonna take us a while to get through. So we have a little bit less time today. But anyway, let's do the usual stuff. So I'm on partial shadow ban. So if you want to find all my videos, especially the the first three, which you can't find it all, go to vincentbrunoshadowban.blogspot.com. It's at the bottom of the screen, and it's in the description. And are you sending that link out, Claire?
Yes, I'm sharing. I just shared it on Facebook.
Okay, let me just share it and um put it up on my website. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I've just had a chat with Norvin and Ovi, and I don't know if you've heard of HIV and martial law. Do you know these
No,
people?
no,
Okay,
what was the conversation about? Whose channel was it on?
Norvin Hobbs. Do you know Norvin?
No, and OV behaved himself?
Well, he interrupted, but Norvin muted him, so he controlled the situation quite well. Um, yeah, it was civil enough. I mean, martial law was drunk, you can tell, but he's an anti-Semite basically. Because I know he had his BitChute and his YouTube deleted when he previously had them. But yes, oh yes, and one of them said he could see that the future was secular Quranism, and I obviously I liked him for that. And then he said, "Oh, but I'm a bit mad, you know." But he sounded all right. He sounded, um, fairly rational, just a
Who
bit
said the future
insane.
is secular Quranism?
Somebody called Norvin's acolyte, I think.
Oh,
And they've heard of the no hide laws. And
and
I
what did
have a
they?
recording of it, and you'll be able to enjoy it later.
Okay, very good. What did they say about the Noahide laws?
Well, they only mentioned it in passing that it's Jewish or something like that. Okay, most of them were, they've been drinking, so you can't expect them to make a lot of sense. It was just more, touching base and establishing a presence, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, this thing, I like they like to another thing why I don't like watching these men is that so much of their time is just taken up with just like trivia and their own personal lives and kind of like personal chit chat and stuff like that. Like, if you notice, like, I mean, I don't usually just sit around and, for very long at least. I don't know. I try to talk about something of substance rather than just like,
Yeah, me too, me too. And it was like, oh, what's your favorite band? And I thought, oh no, oh no. But I managed to interrupt that, and you sort of know that it's probably not worth trying to explain anything complicated to them because well they won't remember. But there were a few intelligent people in the live chat, so that's hopeful. But anyway, it was on the Blood Sports debate channel. In case you're interested.
okay. Um, yeah, I mean, no, it's very hard to listen to these people, and then when you go like then I don't know, they interrupt their things. Yeah, they get into long, deep conversations just about nothing, just about I don't know, just about not very topical things. Just
Yeah, you just said, but chit chat and personal stuff, which actually I'm not interested in. Have you spoken to John Vance?
not since I was on your channel with him and I told him to read Secular by Design.
Right, right. Yes, yes, because he was complaining that he was just chucked off for well saying that women should be flogged, but maybe that's not not such a good idea. Maybe you should mince your words a little bit. I mean, I try to say unmarried parents should be treated as sex offenders. People get the message. It sounds more civilized.
He got thrown off the channel for saying women should be flogged.
This was somebody else's channel. This has nothing to do with Norvin.
Oh.
And I've actually got it here in case you're interested, but you may not be.
Well, don't you kind of believe that too?
Yes, yes, 100 lashes for unmarried parents. That's how I say it. But a lot of hostility can be generated by using the wrong word. Or even if you don't use the wrong word, because then people get angry with you for, appearing to sound reasonable, which is what the middle class Christians were angry with me about. If you watch the Randos United stream, I don't know if you did, with those
It
middle class people.
they're angry that you're making flogging people seem like a reasonable position.
I don't think I did. I can't remember if I said that, but it was sort of like, oh, you cheated. Somehow you've gotten something over us because we didn't challenge you, or I don't know. So what happened when I arrived was I was chatting to these people, and then Jacob Farturecci arrived and demanded that I be put in backstage, and for the rest of the 3 hours I was there, well, they talked about what a terrible person I was, and then the flag and gun photos shown of me, and then then it was saying maybe we need somebody to make sure that we don't hurt each other's feelings. They were talking about boundaries and shit like that. And I don't know. And then eventually, towards the end, I was allowed on again. But the way they treated me, it was like I was, it was almost as if I was gonna, blow myself up, or really quite neurotic.
Mm. Well,
But anyway,
the only reason they react like this to you is because they view you as a threat, and um, it's very obvious that they view you as a threat because I mean we're on opposite spectrums, but I don't act like that with you. I don't, get all insane and stuff like that because I'm not really threatened by you. You know what I mean? Like I don't. I mean, yeah, I'm not. The only threat that you pose to me is like if secular Quranism overtook Noahidism, but I mean, that's still a little bit different because I'm not really a real Noahidist. So it's not like I really feel like you're gonna outstrip me.
yeah, we're kind of like, oh, what's that thing that you see in westerns, and it's these two people, one pushing up and one pushing down, and it's on a railway track, and they go up and down the railway track doing this.
Yeah,
Do you know what
yeah,
that thing is
yeah.
called?
No, I don't. But yes, I know
Okay.
what you're talking.
Mm.
All right, let's read a little bit. Okay, so now we're on the games of science. Illusions change the instruments of their expression, but they remain the same illusions. Religions change their gods, but remain the same religion. The atheist Gentile has made science his god, but it has not changed his religion. In the scientific field, the atheist Gentile tells me we will find world unity. In science, there is no room for the subconscious, and it is in the subconscious which dictates the eternal enmities. Place your relations on a conscious basis, and you may have differences to be adjusted, but not enmities. The solution of the Jewish Gentile problem, as of every instinct problem, lies in the pursuit of truth through science. All other problems are not really problems, but purely technical matters to be settled by application of mathematics. And as we learn to make this distinction between the instinct problem and technical task, the greater is the discredit into which the former falls, the clearer is the attention which will bring to the latter. The greatest contributions of science to human advance has been the opening of paths to our free intelligence so that the unconscious and conscious mind, with its inheritance of the beast, might fall into destitute. The truth alone will save us, and the science is truth. That was a quote. He was quoting the scientist Gentile saying this stuff. Now he's talking. I do not wish to go into an examination of the truth of the nature of truth. I do not wish to question the validity of scientific truths. I am ready to admit that scientific truths are truths in the accepted sense of this word, or if there are mistakes, if this or that scientific theory is wrong, I will not argue that therefore the scientific method is wrong, or that science itself does not go nearest to the truth. My contention is that science, the examination of facts in literal terms, is quite irrelevant to the spiritual problem of man. Science is accurate, but its accuracy is pointless for spiritual purposes. The truth which are unveiled by the scientific method, and which it is the special aptness of this method to unveil, do not matter to anybody. Science teaches us that the earth goes around the sun rather than the sun around the earth. Does it really matter which is the case? Yes. Science teaches us that the occasional retrogression effect in the observed motion of the planets is not due to cycles in epicycle, orb in orb, but to changes of perceptive product produced along the plane of the ecliptic during the revolution of the planets around the sun. Well, what of it? It has revealed the fact that certain diseases are due to the acute ac- ac- action of minute parasites, that there is a marvelous structural parallel between man and the beast, that forms of energy are interchangeable, that the earth is extremely old, that there were other forms of life on the planet before us, that we are merely a point in space. All this is accurate, but is any of it important? Yes. Ignore, of course, the obvious advantages which are supposed to accrue from the application of these facts. The conquest of nature, as it is bombastically called, though even these advantages are vitiated, vitiated by,
Initiated.
what is it? Vitiated?
Hmm.
What does that mean?
Destroyed or cancelled, I think.
Vitiated by our inability to exploit them decently. It is not to these advantages that the scientist alludes when he talks of the spiritual value of science. He means pure science, the perception of these truths for their own sake, or more accurately, for the sake of the change which they produce in our attitude toward life, the invert universe, each other. But science and revelation of scientific truths have no effect on our attitude toward life, the universe, and each other. The mood of the mind of man, the temper of his outlook, his essential nature, his totality of spiritual reaction, his it has nothing to do with the additional number of facts which science reveals. It would not alter the effective mood of civilized man if it happened that light were revealed as the radiation of corpuscles rather than as waves the in the ether. Whatever that may mean, they may be 88 elements or 880. The atom may be a kind of solar system, or it may be a figure of speech. Life may be a function of a complicated molecular structure, or it may be an illusion. Whichever should turn out to be the true, Whichever should turn out to be true, we should remain the same. Our only concern is with the exploitation of these things for physical advantages. As far as that is concerned, it does not matter whether we have the truth or have it on a method of conventional hypothesis. The Ptolemaic system of astronomy could permit the calculation of ellipses as accurately as the Copernican. Cycle in ecliptic orb in orb works as effectively if the figures are close enough watched as eclipses with the sun at each one of the foci. So this is dumb. He's saying that the old Ptolemaic system of astronomy, which was based on bogus nonsense, was just as good as the Copernican, like because they gave the same. That's really complicated. Why they would get okay. The Ptolemaic system of astronomy, there were like billions of exceptions, so it gave you a system, but then you had to know every single last exception, and there were more exceptions and more exceptions and more exceptions to the rule every single day. um it wasn't it worked only because they kept adding in exceptions and saying, well, the system works except for here, and in this situation this little weird thing happens, and this place this little weird thing happens. It's not a smooth system like the Copernican system, which is a real system, because then you can calculate where all the planets and stars and everything is going to be without any exceptions. It always works. The Ptolemaic system is based on something false. It's based on the Earth being the center of the universe. So it's not going to work. So it really does matter
Hmm.
which you use, and the truth does matter. For science is a game, a particular systemization which might well be any other systemization, not true. Indeed, despite the prodigious number of facts which science has unveiled, no new type of spiritual outlook has been evolved. It is the general consciousness of self-consciousness of the modern materialist difference in effect from that of the civilized Stoic or more than 2,000 years ago. If you substitute stress in the ether for the pneuma, if you substitute the laws of gravitation or some electromagnetic formula for each other or for tension, will that alter your response to the universe? Science is so far a game, indeed, that self-confessedly it deals with symbols. Only these are pure abstractions. The ion X and the theory of relativity. We juggle with figures, with symbols, with arrangements. The things or truths or facts which are supposedly represented are utterly beyond our apprehension. To take the simplest illusion, the sun is 92 million miles from the earth, the moon a quarter of a million miles. Neither of these distances means anything to any human being. A million or 10 million or 1,000 billion, we have no spiritual reaction to any of these figures. These are symbols or counters in the game, in themselves intelligible to no one. Or to take the most significant of new scientific truths, the truth of relativity. Its application is only to the game or system. No man himself reacts to its application. He uses it in the laboratory, the observatory. He cannot bring it out. He cannot even lift it up off the paper. Indeed, such a revolution was wrought into our conception of the universe by the exposition of the theory of relativity that if scientific truths had been spiritual significance, there should have been a religious revolution in its wake. Since the dawn of science, we have been blind to the tremendous and fundamental truth, and all inclusive and inescapable truth, namely that the motion of light rules all our measurements and time and space and mass, that the length of a line or of a period of time is nothing but a function of varying value. A terrific and sublime discovery, one might say. Yet not only does it fail to make a particle of difference to the spiritual attitude of scientists toward the universe, they cannot even theoretically integrate it with a spiritual system. Okay, I'm gonna make a cup of coffee, but well, I hope this whole chapter isn't about this. This seems like nonsense what he's saying right now.
It is like a bedtime story.
Well, these religious people always hate science, so these type of people always they're always science isn't the answer. Science isn't the answer. Science doesn't know. Science doesn't know enough. Science isn't enough. Like what? Okay, and they've been preaching with their bullshit that they have is fine enough without science for long enough. You can believe all their nonsense, unscientific nonsense, and that's going to get you everywhere. But if you listen to science, oh no.
Well, I mean, science can't claim to prove God's existence or disprove it, so
Yeah, I
science has
know, but
nothing to say. I mean, they can't even say that God definitely didn't cause the Big Bang, right?
no, they can't say that. They can't. You can't say anything about God on the scientific level, really.
Exactly. So it's sort of like completely different subjects. I don't know why they say science won. I mean it's sort of like you're having a competition about who is longer, and thinks it's about who is heavier. It's something like that. So I mean, you can be a scientist and think, oh wow, the wonders of nature and the physical world are so amazing that only God could have created it. I mean, there's some who think that.
Stephen J. James is here. He says day 62 of becoming a Jew. You already said day 62, Stephen. You're on like day 65, you should be saying at this point. You're going backwards.
Oh, good. Stephen is here to
Should we
give
send
us
him the
his
link?
contribution. Yes.
Okay, Stephen, I'm putting the link in the chat. I don't think he's watching now. Nobody's watching. I used to get more viewers, but lately I really haven't been getting any.
Because he'd be boring.
Why? Because of you Gentiles?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, okay. So what was the average number of views you've been getting then?
Well, today, right now, well, before I had like 4, and now I have 0.
Yeah, because I was falling asleep.
Well, I don't, yeah, because I'm not talking about Gentile bullshit. If I had drunk people on here talking about their personal lives, yeah, I would have tons of views.
Well, we don't want that.
Well, yeah, I mean, but Stephen J. James is his, his little quip is the exact reason why I don't get viewers is because he said, "Oh, at day 62 of becoming a Jew." Like, yeah, because because I talk about intellectual things on here, they don't want to hear it. You're a Jew. Oh, you read books. You're a Jew.
Have you heard of martial law?
No, who is he?
Well, apparently he's written a book, and I know that he and Jen have met. So, you know, well, he's a Kiwi basically, and he has a view on Jews because his channels have been deleted on BitChute and YouTube.
Well, he obviously uses derogatory words.
Yeah, well, I kind of invited him to come over, but he said it was late and he was going to bed and he was drunk. So, okay, these people have a certain view and they're not going to be shifted because it's part of their belief system and also their tribal identity. I mean, he was giving me some shit about, oh, but I'm not really an anti-Semite. It's like, well, here are the clues: your deleted BitChute account, your deleted YouTube account, the fact that I'm talking to you in Norvin's channel. And Norvin said his views on Jews have shifted. So,
Oh, sorry, we just had a baby bird.
well, it was a
Yeah.
cute noise you were making. I don't
No,
know.
I was kissing my husband because we have a baby bird that got born. Yeah. They're gonna feed him. And now my husband's scared they're not feeding him. They're gonna feed their baby, believe me. They're society finches. They're known to be very good parents, Chamo. Okay, they're society finches, so they're very good to their babies. You can Society finches will take abandoned babies of other birds and feed them. So
Are they called society finches, did you say?
yeah, they're called society finches because they're not really well. Okay, I don't know what to think about these finches now because what I read is that they have no wild equivalent. That they have been bred in China. Though now I've seen a finch that they're also called the Bengali finch or the Bengal finch, and I think I've seen pictures of them in the wild. But what I think it is the ones that you get in pet stores have been bred in China, and they were selectively bred for so long that they purposely bred out their territorial instincts. So they don't
Mm-hmm.
have territorial instincts. They all share the same nest. They don't share separate nests. They don't get territorial about nests. They don't fight over territory and stuff like that. So they're very easy to keep as birds because they're not constantly fighting with each other. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
zebra finches, which are another type of bird that we used to have, are horrible, just constantly fighting over territory.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, it says Bengali finches are well adapted to captivity and the company of humans. They breed well and are good foster parents for other finch-like birds.
Yes, they're good foster parents. They're very good parents. They
Mm-hmm.
collectively, because they don't care who the parent is. If you have a few of them, the only way to know who the parents are if you put them alone in a breeder cage. But if they all share the same nest, they all sleep with each other, so you don't know who the parents are. You don't know who laid the eggs. You don't know who the dad is, who the mom is. You know what I mean? You have to actually put them in separate cages and breed them if you want to know that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's keep reading because we're a little bit behind today. All the effective spiritual value of the theory of relativity is things are not what they seem. To this suspicion, which is a basic spiritual reaction of man to the universe, the theory of relativity adds nothing. At most of the theory of relativity is an additional but superfluous illustration. But I shall be told by the scientists it is not any individual scientific revelation which matters. What matters is the scientific outlook as such, the conception of the universe as an ordered and harmonious process, the elimination of the providential and accidental, the final and decisive removal of the thaumaturgical. Science means neither the theory of evolution nor the discovery of the bacillus nor the theory of relativity. Science means the cancellation of the inherited instinct errors. In brief, science is the substitute of reason for superstition. But even at that variation, I contend that scientific pursuit of truth has given nothing to our knowledge of the ultimate secret of the things. What the scientists would call the scientific outlook, in accordance with the above definition, has nothing to do with scientific study of phenomenon. Men are by nature unthaumaturgical. What's thaumaturgical mean?
I don't know. I have a comment from Stephen J. James. He and says, "Can't you encourage Fisson to read a little less robotically? He sounds like a speech bot from 2004."
Yeah, I know. He told me, these fucking people are, all they do is complain. If you're going to come to my channel and do nothing but complain, why do you even come here?
Well, I guess they're sort of interested in the subject, and they might be more interested if you read it properly.
Men are by nature unthaumaturgical or thaumaturgical in their reactions to the universe.
Where did you
Science,
look it up?
thaumaturgical. Thaumaturgical. Thaumaturgy. Performance of miracles.
Oh. Oh, say the sentence again about this miracle making characteristic of who?
Um, Men are by nature unthaumaturgical or thaumaturgical in their reaction to the universe. Science, in its modern sense, does not make them unthalmaturgical. It is one of the basic qualities of human thought, the particular variety of outlook on the universe. I say it existed before the advent of what we denote under the restriction term of science. I say it would exist such as strongly as these types of men, though not a single discovery had been added to human knowledge of phenomenon since the time of Aristotle. I say that though science should add a million startling new revelations to its old ones, it would not increase or decrease the number of men who have the unthalmaturgical outlook. I referred to the Stoics and said that Stoicism contained as unthalmaturgical an outlook as any other modern science claims to have inspired. But even if this were not true, it should not change my opinion, for life at first hand taught me that view, and what I know of history I used only as an illustration. Life at first hand has taught me that knowledge of science has nothing to do with the superstitious or unsuperstitious, with the thaumaturgical or unthaumaturgical, with idealism or materialism. I have known thoroughly ignorant men who see life quite rationally, apparently untroubled by unconscious impulse, men who have the scientific outlook without knowing or needing science. I have known thoroughly scientific men who are profoundly thaumaturgical, who are saturated with the spirit of superstition. It is not the knowledge of facts which change the man. A man may believe in ghosts and yet not be superstitious. He may merely be mistaken. Another man may believe neither in ghosts nor in any anthropomorphic god, and yet be essentially of the superstitious type. It is not even a question of sophistication. I have known simple and primitive peasants, quite illiterate, who were as clearly rationalist and scientific in outlook as any professor inspired by a complete knowledge of the revealed mechanics of the world. I have known cultured city dwellers rotten with sophistication, whose surface cynicism could not hide their subjection to the terror of invisible, unrevealable possibilities. Scientific genius is only the genius of the ingenious. Men who, by their nature, are materialists feed their energies into building intensely ingenious schemata wherein the known facts of life constitute the sole material. But these ingenious schema do not alter their nature with their shape or with their quality of their material. The mechanisms of the universe might be thus or thus. Things might work in this way or that way. It might be one formula or another formula, but the spirit of the thing is the same. For hundreds of years, capable minds have searched, constructed, reconciled. Their knowledge of the mechanism is infinite, greater than any man's knowledge 1,000 years ago. Yet men who know as little of these mechanics as we know 1,000 years ago have come to the same conclusion regarding the nature of the universe. There is in science a certain. Okay, let's take a break. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages left. Let's take a little break. Yeah, today's reading is really not that great. I'll be honest. It's just trying to prove that science is not that great, which is always a boring.
Well, there's nothing to say about religion anyway, does it? I mean, technically.
Well, no, science doesn't have anything to say about religion, but to just. Yeah, I don't like when they're just like, oh, you think science is all that. Well, science isn't all that because of this philosophical concept, you know.
Hmm. But I mean, Jewish philosophy works if it is equated with Jewish theology, which is, they just make the story fit. Like, God created the universe and created us. He knows our hearts and minds. He will punish evil and reward good in this life or the next. And we have to follow his laws to be safe and good. And if we don't, we will be punished in this life or the next. And that's it. And if we follow his laws, we will be around for longer than any ancient empire, which is what Jews are about, right? I don't know What year was it when Moses came out of Egypt?
I don't know. We can figure that stuff out. We can figure that stuff out.
Yeah, but basically the point of Judaism is like, look, here we are, the world's most ancient and powerful tribe. And you try to kill us so many times, but we're indestructible. That is the message, isn't it? And Gentiles are supposed to work out, well, why? Why are they so special? Perhaps God protects them, or I don't know.
What,
Because,
God protects the Jews.
yeah, it makes them indestructible.
I don't necessarily think that. Well, okay, I go by the hardline position that all of these Jews, 90% of these Jews that are out there today are not really Jews. I mean, if this was ancient Israel, they would not be Jews. They would be, idolaters, and they would not be tolerated in the land of Israel. And if this was ancient Israel, there would be a war just like there was a war between the two southern tribes versus the 10 pagan northern tribes. Like, it was a civil war. It wasn't just like, oh, we're Jews, but we worship pagan gods. No, like, it was about killing people who actually did
Yeah,
that. Like,
early Duckert.
well, it was just about, but the point is that if you didn't follow the Jewish rules, you were killed. In ancient Israel, there was no such thing as an unpracticing Jew. There was no such thing as a Jew who broke the Sabbath, and that you weren't a Jew anymore. You were put to death, and you lost your Jewish status. And so when people say, "Oh, God made the Jews so indestructible," did He? Because these Jews today really aren't Jews, are they? That's not what God meant by Jews. God did not mean a bunch of liberal secular people spreading, transgender rights. That's not what He meant.
Exactly. So, my idea of a register of Jews would be perfect because it's like you Jews, you want to get your name on this register because then it'll mean that you're Jews. So they come along and get their name on the register, and then you go through there. Oh, but you keep the Sabbath, and it would be their rabbi. The rabbi would be the registrar. So if they don't come to synagogue, then they'd be struck off, and then eventually most of them would be struck off, right? And then you reduce their number. But okay, I mean you can reduce their number to zero, but we Gentiles would still have our social problems, wouldn't we?
Well, Gentiles would still have well, Gentiles would have a lot less social problems, not problems, but in Jewish terms, social problems. If the Jews had just spread the Noahide laws, then of course they would have a lot less social problems. If Jews behaved like Jews, you know what I mean? If then there would be a lot less social problems. But these so-called Jews that are exacerbating this so-called problem by spreading transgender and gay rights, or my plan is to make it so that the nations become Noahide enough that either Jews who are breaking the Sabbath or breaking any of their rules are extradited to Israel to be tried. And if Israel is not a theocracy by that point, then just set up Jewish courts in America and try the Jews here.
Okay, so what I think will happen is okay. If my little idea were ever implemented, then liberalism would be over anyway. So I guess well, maybe your social problems would be over because it is liberalism that is causing all these social problems and political problems of people not just not being able to do the right thing and tell the truth and stop believing in nonsense. But I suppose if we just assume that whatever happened was meant to happen because God let it happen, um, we I mean, what do you think of this idea then? Like, we live in the best of all possible worlds, and whatever has happened was meant to happen, and even if we don't like it, we have to accept it and try to make sense of it.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what the Noahide laws say about, or the Jews say about Christianity and Islam, right? Even though it caused so many problems for the Jews, it was actually created by God to prepare the way for the Noahide laws on earth, which I don't believe that. Okay, I don't believe that God's plan was to use Christianity and Islam to spread Noahidism on earth. I think the Jews didn't do what they were supposed to do, and so they were punished. That's what I don't think God was like, oh, okay, we're going to prep the soil for Noahidism, so let's create two false religions that get rid of most of idolatry. Like, I really don't think God was into creating false religion.
No, I mean, he presumably let it happen. He let three Christian empires rise. So, I mean, that is the thing that I'm quite trying to suggest that okay, he doesn't approve of idolatry, but he let it happen because he has created a universe in which the sin is its own punishment. So people who think, oh, Christians are the riding high, the lords of the universe, or they think they are, and then you think, well, yes, that was the case for a while, and well, look at them now. They don't even know if they're male or female. And when some mentally ill woman who thinks she's a man shoots up a school, the Western media give more sympathy to trans people than to the victims of this trans spree killer. So, I mean, you could interpret this as, ooh, Christians are under a curse. Look at them. They don't know if they're male or female, and even if they do, they're too afraid to say whether they're male or female.
Well, yeah, that's why I don't really believe that God used Christianity to spread Noahidism, because, I mean,
Well,
I don't.
okay. I mean, there is a okay. There is a way of rationalizing it. You okay, you don't want your kid to touch the iron that is on because it's really hot and it's going to hurt it. So what you do is basically iron the iron board until it's really, really hot, and and make sure the kid is watching you, and invite the kid to touch the ironing board. That's really, really hot, and of course it'll, oh, it's really hot, ow. And then it'll, and then they'll see that it was the iron that made it really, really, really hot, and they won't want to touch it because they kind of learned that what hurt them was the heat of the iron on the ironing board. I don't, did I make myself clear?
No, kind of, yes. I mean, if you want to teach them a lesson, you don't just put the iron right on their hand, right?
Yeah, yeah. You give it, so you allow them to understand what would happen to them at one remove. It's sort of cause and effect. It's like, you see this bad thing, you don't want it to happen to you, so you avoid going anywhere near this bad, thing. So I could. Okay, so this is basically my narrative. There have been three Christian empires, and then these Christians say, but why would God allow three Christian empires to rise if he didn't approve of Christianity? And I'm saying, well, 2,000 years is well nothing to God. It's maybe just two minutes or 2 seconds to him, so he doesn't care. And obviously he is saying, well, you've got nothing left now. Westerners, you think Christianity is your religion, but actually it hasn't been your religion for 250 years, because actually liberalism has been your religion, and liberalism isn't the only secular political ideology that you try to replace Christianity with. You tried it with fascism, you tried it with Nazism, you tried it with communism, and you couldn't make it work. And here's this Islam thing that you hate and fear so much. Um, so there you go. Oh yes, yes, there's this thing about Judaism which says before the disease, the cure exists, because God, in His mercy, has given us the cure to the disease that He knows we will get. And if we just refuse to use it because we're Islamophobes, it's too bad for us. But the
Well,
cure,
and we've already
you
discussed it.
don't
Just
like.
because you can accept Noahidism and not be an Islamophobe because you don't want religion, okay? Just because you don't want religion doesn't mean you're Islamophobic. It just means you don't want religion and you don't want any nonsense or superstition or rituals or holidays or anything like that or God or whatever. Okay, Islam comes with a lot of spiritual baggage.
Well, I mean, Islam does require you to believe in Allah, which is the same being as the God of Israel.
Yes, but you don't have to believe in the God of Israel to be a Noahide, number one. Number two, even if you do, that's the thing is that spirituality is supposed to be private and it's not supposed to be systematized. So there would be no Friday prayers, call to prayer. There would be no mosques. There would be no real other book outside of Torah for you to read. And I would even say don't read Torah. I've been talking to Judas Fly about this. Judas Fly says, well, I've been talking to Judas Fly because he's been spreading spiritual stuff, and I've been telling him not to do that. And he tells me that I'm dumb and a heretic. So,
What sort of spiritual stuff has he been spreading?
oh, just stuff about God and just like little, you know how Chabad puts out those little like feel good quotes like God is working through you to eliminate the darkness and all this other kind of stuff, like
Aha.
that kind of stuff. So me and him have been fighting over spirituality.
But you don't approve of spirituality?
Not for Gentiles, no.
But don't you have any spirituality?
Me? No, I've dropped all my spirituality. I'm not really spiritual anymore, no.
Why did you? Don't you want to be spiritual again?
No, it didn't help me. It just made me think things that weren't true and it gave me hopes that weren't real. And no, it didn't help my life. It made me unhappy.
But you have quite a few unrealistic expectations and predictions, I would argue. So
Okay, but
you haven't.
those are based on, tangible things. It's not based on, those are based on tangible things that can happen, as in conversions to Noahidism. It's not based on mysticism. I'm not basing it on any mystical kind of outcome or mystical sign or superstition or anything like that or lore or anything like that.
Do you think Sam is spiritual?
Yes, more so than I am. Yeah.
Do you think I'm spiritual?
Not particularly, but maybe a little bit.
Well, I mean, I'm basically making predictions. You're making your prediction. I'm making my prediction. We're not. uh, We're not particularly relying on God, are we? But I mean, all I'm saying is, if God exists, then he might be planning this, and if I'm right, then I'll be on the people who win, or the people who don't get destroyed, and maybe thinking in this way is better than superstition. But then there are people who think belief in the Abrahamic God is superstition, and is this your view?
Is what my view? That what about superstition?
Is belief in the Abrahamic God superstition?
It's belief in non-rational powers. Yes, it's belief in the supernatural. So yeah.
Okay, you think it's superstition. I suppose Jews might argue that, well, the existence of the Abrahamic God has not been falsified. You can't say, oh, because bad things happen, it means God doesn't exist, because the bargain that God made with mankind was that if we're good and obey his laws, we'll get to heaven. And, well, obviously, we won't know until we're dead. Uh, But then okay, so you say, well, we could just die and still not be any the wiser. But then um, you can basically just compare all the different religious groups, right, and see which one is doing better, and then work out which religion you should choose for your country based on how well these different religious groups are doing.
Hi, hello?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, I was on mute. Well, that's my whole thing that we should with Beyondism, that with Beyondism it says is everybody does their own thing within their own borders. And then we check in on everyone and see who's doing the best. And do they allow spirituality? If they do, how are they doing? If they don't allow spirituality, how are they doing? And what spirituality do they allow? Which spirituality do they ban? Do they ban? I think there should be some country somewhere that bans monotheism. How does that work out for a society?
I don't think there's any country that has banned monotheism.
I know, but if it did, well, we would find out.
Well, if it did, then people would want to believe in it all the more.
Well,
So,
you could ban polytheism, and all you need to do is be brutal about it, and it works. So why can't you do
yeah,
the
yeah,
same with mon?
well, in either case, if you banned it, people will want to do it all the more, and then
And so you
you
get
know,
rid of those people.
well, it might be a bit difficult also, and then people in the ruling classes will say, well, it's a bit unnecessary. Why can't we just let them do it? Because otherwise they'll be committing acts of terrorism against us if we close down their places of religious worship. So
Well,
in the end, you think, well, actually, I don't want any trouble as long as they pay their taxes and obey the law. They can go and worship whatever stupid idol they want to worship. I mean, in the end, that would be the line of least resistance taken by the government, surely.
well, okay. Well, look, the Jews do it the smart way. Is they prep the soil 100 years in advance. They don't just go in right away and say everyone stop idolatry. They really, even with Christianity, which is idolatry, they're going to prep that soil. They're going to get into the churches. They're going to rewrite the Bibles. They're going to get them on new Bibles. They're going to start teaching them about Shatuf and soft polytheism and what this
They
means to
just had to
Jews.
write the four Gentile religions.
And
And
then
they
nobody will
won't
be
because they're
Noahide.
scared. I don't accept your narrative of the Jews, planning anything. They're just not doing it because they're scared.
They're
And
not.
they've always been scared.
Oh no, they're planning. They're scared, and that's why they're planning it the way they're doing it. But they are planning it. Let's read because we have 5 pages left, and I only have a little while. There is in signs of certain naivete, the belief that facts differ in their nature, the belief that a fact which is more difficult to unearth is therefore profounder than a fact which is obvious. The belief that a microscope, because it needs a microscope to reveal, the belief that a microbe, because it needs a microscope to reveal it, touches truth more deeply than the flea, which can be seen with the naked eye, yet a fact is not more valuable access any more than a thought is more profound by having been more obscure. In the end, it comes to this science, which is the accumulation of literal facts, hopes that the accumulation of facts will reveal the nature of fact. Science seems to believe, if I may use these rather clumsy locutions, that some facts are of a different color from other facts, going nearer to the source of nature of things. This is untrue. All facts are in the same plane. Facts are not explanatory but expository, and what they expose is the same nature for or material as that which we know without science. To expect facts to reveal the nature of facts is to expect the microscope to reveal the nature of the microscope. You cannot examine one microscope by means of another, but its nature or secret is not accessible to this mode of examination. It is of a different order. The chain of facts is everywhere uniform. When you know 1 inch of this chain, you have learned as much as you can learn from a mile. If the chain of cause and effect, fact related to fact, is infinitely long, any length of it is equally significant. 1,000 years is not nearer to eternity than a moment of time. There is indeed a certain vulgarity in the appeal to quantity. It is the democratic vulgarity, the belief that 1 million mediocre people have more spiritual significance than one mediocrity. That size affects quality. That 1,000 new facts means more than 100 old facts. There is in all this even the vulgarity of provincialism and cockney fashionableness, the belief that the latest is the best. But vulgarity is most patent in the common assertion that science is of spiritual value because it reveals the wonders of the universe. So marvelous a structure, they say, rouses our astonishment and our reverence, the glory of God's house and the infinite wisdom of his ways. Science leads to religion because it leads us both our own significance and the amazing cleverness of creation. I hold this view to be patently vulgar because it is an appeal to headlines, recourse to stimuli of the advisor for the benefit of the stupid and jaded public. The thinking man needs no scientist to teach him the wonder of creation. He needs neither a telescope nor a microscope in order to see God, nor do formulae teach him the nature of God. Life itself, being the staggering wonder of mere existence, fills completely, crams beyond all possibility of addition, and faculty of astonishment and bewilderment in the sensitive man. Those to whom existence has become commonplace by familiarity, or whom have never been smitten prostrate by the riddle of existence, need a crescendo succession of shockers to touch their brutish minds. They didn't know the marvel of the universe until they learned of electricity, but now the electricity is as commonplace as sunlight. They need a theory of relativity, and when that is played out as an advertising stunt for the ingenuity of the Almighty, they will need something else. Such vulgarity in scientists is not a whit different from the vulgarity of city mobs, which crow the astonishments which crow the astonishment when first they see an electric light, but afterwards smile pityingly at those who manifest an astonishment. The man of the mass mistakes impudent familiarity for understanding. Because he uses the electric car, the telephone, and the telegraph every day, he imagines that he is wiser than the barbarian who has never known of them. If at all, he is less wise, being too impudent to know his own ignorance. The fool that saith in his heart there is no God is the city fool to whom nothing is wonderful anymore, and those who do not know wonder do not know God. Okay, this is just okay. Well, we're almost done with this. We're about 3 pages away from being done with this chapter. So this has been a sucky chapter. So I'm sorry because it's just been an attack on science and it hasn't really been all that philosophically deep and it's been a little bit useless. But I'll be honest. I think that probably the Jewish view on science, the religious Orthodox Jewish view on science, would be very much lacking and insignificant, meaningless because they're not very good at science.
Jews are not good at science? Is that what
The
you're saying?
religious Orthodox Jews now are not good at science who didn't go to school. I mean, it's not a scientific culture. They don't even believe in dinosaurs or anything like that. The Orthodox Jews, when they teach their children in the schools, they cut out all the pages that deal with dinosaurs.
Okay, I'm not. I suppose Jews are supposed to be just smarter because they, just because of the nature of their religion and their very rule-based lifestyles. So that would have the effect of making them smarter than people who just say whatever comes into their heads and do whatever they feel like at the time. And that would be the clear blue water between children who are in a rule-based environment and children who are not brought up in a rule-based environment. Well, I think you are the beneficiary of it, don't you?
Well, yes. I mean, I was raised in Noahide, and I was Jehovah's Witnesses, okay, they don't have rules that are integratable into the state, but they have internal rules that you're not supposed to break, and there are very a lot of them. And they go into the eisegesis of it, and they show you in the Bible where the rule came from and why we don't do it and stuff like that. So yes, it
Mhm.
is there. There's a lot of rules. They're not government rules, but they are religious rules. Yes, we have a lot of religious rules that we have to follow, and so do Seventh Day Adventists and stuff like that.
And it could
And I,
be that your greater intelligence compared to others not brought up in your kind of environment is because of that, the rule based environment that you were in.
well, yeah, I mean, I do think that's why I'm good at studying and stuff like that, because I was taught how to study and I was taught how to cross-examine scriptures and cross-examine books and find the detail in the Bible which explains the particular position that the Jehovah's Witnesses take. Yes.
Hmm. There you go. There it is. That's it. And when you think, most kids just grow up hooked on video games and apparently get violent when their parents tell them not to play so much, it's a different kind of generation.
Yeah, they're horrible, they're stupid. Yes, I mean, all of these American people, I have nothing to do with them because they're all stupid.
But there is the difference, and the difference is religious. Religion, I should
Well,
say.
yeah, I mean, you can also see the difference between Catholics and Protestants, less now these days, but more so in the past. Protestants always did better because, Protestants actually read the Bible and Protestants actually made arguments from the Bible, whereas Catholics only listened to Mass in Latin. They didn't understand what anyone was saying. They never read the Bible. And if they did, it was only like Jesus stories. They never like went deep into it. They were forbidden from getting too deep into the Bible.
Oh, well, they were forbidden?
Well, for a while, but the thing is that Catholics always did worse than Protestants because of their culture, because it was more rituals and stuff like that. It was less, less intensive, much less biblically intensive.
Hmm. Less analytical, perhaps.
Yes, less analytical. It was less analytical, more dogma.
And they have their catechism, right? Which is words they learn off by heart to repeat when a certain situation arises.
Is that what catechism is? I can't remember. I went to catechism for a very short period of time when I was in kindergarten, and I didn't really remember what I learned.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, I understand catechism would be, oh, I don't know, whatever they say to tell you to go away, but in a kind of religious way. So that if they were asked any awkward question, they would just repeat it word for word and repeat it with great, confidence to deter um, any further questions.
Okay, let's keep reading. What time is that? I have one, two, three more pages to read, and I have about 25 minutes to do it, so we'll get through it. It is not significant that the greatest human cry of wonder, the Bible, was the utterance of men who knew nothing concerning the Plesiosaurus, the amoeba, the nebula of Orion, Mendeleev's table, Bode's law, the theory of quanta. In them, the marvel of existence shocked like a clash of cymbals to echoes of that first fresh amazement, still put to shame the sophisticated stammering of the wise age. Have all the revelations of science brought just a single utterance like that of Job? Better, though. Well, I said better. Though a man should master all the genius of science, though he should doubt and tremble. What? Though a man should master all the ingenious ingenuities of science, though he should double and treble them, though he should know all the workings of his own body and of the stellar systems, though Earth's past and future, the past and future of all life, should lie open before him, can he say or feel more than this? Can science even add anything to skepticism or doubt? Shall he who suspects that all life is a phantasm, perception itself, the shadows of a shadow, and our very whispers to ourselves, the 10 times tampered with instruments of things which are not ourselves, shall he that suspects that between himself and himself, himself speaking and himself listening, himself thinking and himself thought of, there looms world without end, system within system, aberration with aberration, shall such a one be rendered more doubtful, because the sky is not an inverted bowl above our heads, because disease is carried not by demons but by invisible fleas. If the whole is insecure, does the double insecurity of a part make any difference? If all is illusory, does it make that there were particular little illusions within the general illusion? If we suspect that the very instrument of our perception, if we doubt our senses and our thoughts, if we doubt our very doubts, and in the end, from a frantic hunting of protean shadows, relapse into utter silence and impotence. What addition impotence is to be derived from the correlation of unscientific errors? The world's doubt, the terror and illusion of life, these things lie patent to the naked eye. Life at first hand teaches everything the blind cannot see, even through a microscope. What then is science, and wherein lies its lure? Why are men drawn to its service? Why do the best and ablest give up their lives to its pursuit? Science, which can be of no ultimate value in bringing us nearer to the roots of life, to Godhead and its secrets. Science is a game, a convention. The charm of science is the charm of Gentile life. The ultimate does not matter. Within the system, there is the lyric grace of rhythm and harmony. The scientific development of our Western world is an inevitable consequence of our nature. It is inevitable that you should worship science, because your very skepticism is the substitution of one set of illusions for another, the adoption of one set of conventions in place of another. You are bound to find spiritual value in science because you do not want ultimate spiritual value, only the spiritual value of immediate lyric enjoyment. You who worship gods instead of God must naturally worship science. Science is merely idol worship. There you go, Claire. Science is merely idol worship for acons instruments, for incantation formulas, for palpable, for the material, for the enjoyable. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Science is not a serious pursuit. Your grave professors of chemistry, astronomy, physics, your Nobel Prize winners are but bald and bearded schoolboys playing playing mental football for their own delight and delight of spectators. This guy's an asshole. Science, then, is an art through its technique is of so peculiar a nature as to divide it from all the other arts, but we most easily recognize it as an art because the true scientist takes an artistic delight in science. And because your science is not serious, we Jews have never achieved in it any peculiar preeminence. We have our few exceptions. We can master as well as you the systems and the schemes, but we lack the spiritual urge, the driving joy, the illusion that it is the all in all. Okay, so the only reason that Jews have become so preeminent in science is because they're acting like Gentiles. Okay, not because they're behaving like Jews.
Well, they have, I guess, a mind better formed by their religion, which requires literacy and remembering stuff. So I guess that they're just better equipped to learn stuff at school.
Yeah, I think they're better equipped at like maybe. Well, they could never have invented all the science that the Gentiles invented with their culture. Their culture could never have produced all the great sciences of the Gentile cultures. It just is impossible. Maybe by maybe their religion makes it easier for them to actually pick up the science of other people and maybe actually do it better. I would agree with that. I think it's possible for one people to invent something, but another people use it better than the people who invented it or
Oh
improve on
yeah.
it.
Hmm.
I think that's
Absolutely.
possible.
Mm.
I think just because you invented something doesn't mean that you're necessarily the best at doing it. And other people can imitate you and other people can add on to what you did. And so they can kind of eventually outdo you, even though they weren't the ones who originated the idea. Which is what the Jews are doing now. That they're not the ones who originated the ideas, but they outdo the Gentiles in them.
Yes, they take it further.
Yeah, they take it a step further than the Gentiles take it. We're almost done. Hold on,
Okay.
let's see if there's anyone in the.
Conops.
Oh God,
Two
what does he?
people watching now.
What does Conops want?
He's obviously interested, even though he says he's bored.
It's hilarious how Claire and Vincent are blissfully unaware that they are losing everyone. We aren't even all offended by your ideas, just bored. So why does he come here and even comment?
He's actually interested. Because we're talking about ideas, and what bigger idea is there than God?
We're only one page away from being done. I'll read it in a second, and then I'll go. I have some things I have to get done.
Do you think it's been helpful, even though, I mean, I think that the reading has kind of established that um, science and religion are not okay. But basically, science is science, and religion is philosophy, isn't it? I mean, if you want to go back to Plato and his Republic, he was talking about, well, our rulers should be wise. I mean, that's all
Yeah,
he was saying, really.
yeah, our rulers should be wise. No, but this chapter seemed to. I mean, this is like what he's saying now is just, this is the most insulting chapter. I mean that. Oh, your scientists are just schoolboys playing with mental footballs. That's fucking. Who the fuck does he think he is? Especially in an age when Jews weren't contributing to science because they were still also backward and just barely coming out of the ghettos. Like, who the fuck is he? Are you there?
Yes, yes. I suppose. I mean, he's basically saying science is of no importance, right? That's the gist of what he's saying now.
Yes, and he's saying that these Gentiles who have, you know, dedicated their lives to science are all just a bunch of like, schoolboys.
Well, people kind of did look down on scientists and technical. Well, yeah, I mean, I know in the UK, that the people who studied the classics and history and English. I mean, they got into positions of power or law. But I mean, if you studied science, it's like, oh, you must be such a retard. All you know is figures and formulas, and we're bored with that.
I know that there's always been a conspiracy against science. People who cannot do science hate people who can, and it's always been this way. There's always been a conspiracy against science. Most people can't do it, and so they downplay. Oh, you just know numbers. Like, it's, those numbers can fucking drop an atom bomb on your fucking law school. So don't fucking talk to me about, oh, it's just numbers.
Hmm. But obviously, there are two branches of knowledge, two separate branches of knowledge. But perhaps with the right moral system, everybody can be taught how to reason in the way that Jews reason, which isn't that hard to teach, really. I mean, if it's taught properly.
All right, we have
And
less. Go ahead. We have less
no,
than a page left. Go ahead.
all right. I'm just saying that what they do is basically they have to believe in God, otherwise, I guess they stop being Jews, right? So they use all their intellectual power in believing that everything happens for a reason, and everything that happened was meant to happen, and we're meant to learn lessons from what has happened. I think that is the entire basis of Jewish theology and philosophy, and I think we could benefit from it.
Okay, let's read this last page. We know nothing of science for science's sake, as we know nothing of art for art's sake. We only know of art for God's sake. If there is art, our beauty, in our supreme production, the Bible, it is not because we sought either. The type of the art the type of the artist is alien to us, and just as alien is the delight of the artist. The artist is one who seeks beauty, goes out of his way to find her. But the Hebrew prophet who wrought so beautifully did not go out of his way to find God. God pursued him and caught him, hunted him out and tortured him so that he cried out. Until this day, we have no artists in your sense. Such arts as we have created has been the byproduct of a fierce moral purpose. Art and science, this is your Gentile world, a lovely and ingenious world, kaleidoscopic, graceful, bewildering, seductive, a world at its best of lovely apparitions, banners, struggles, triumphs, gallantries, noble gestures, and conventions, but not our world, not for us, for Jews, for such field of the cloth of gold delights, we lack imagination and inventiveness. We are not touched with this vigor of productive playfulness. Under duress, we take part in the ringing melee and give an indifferent good account of ourselves, but we have not the heart for this world of yours. And well, I guess, yeah, this shows that the Gentiles who are all involved in art and science today obviously are copying Gentiles and are not living as Jews. So,
Well, I mean, you can be a well-rounded person, know a bit of science, know a bit of philosophy, history, literature, and all that. I mean, you want you want a well-rounded education, don't you?
yeah. Okay, well, we have a few chapters left, but we're almost done with this. We have to think about what we're going to read next. I know we're going to read Thessalonica, the Treaty of Thessalonica, and we're going to read George Washington's farewell speech.
I think you mean the Athanasian Creed, don't you?
Athanasian Creed.
Hmm.
Athanasian Creed.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to go. I have to get a few things done before I go to work.
Alrighty.
All
Thanks for
right.
having me.
Yep. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thessalonica.